I've always enjoyed late-night walks. There's something about the stillness after midnight that makes the world feel simpler, quieter, like everything finally stops breathing for a while. I'm a welder by trade. I've been doing it for over 40 years. I live alone on a large farm, just me and my dog, Bosley. The house is far too big for one person, but I never had the heart to downsize after my wife, Maria, passed away. My kids moved out years ago, and ever since cancer took her, it's just been me and Bosley. One night, after a long day in the shop, I decided to go for a walk around the property. The land is big enough that a single loop usually does the trick. The air was cool, and Bosley trotted beside me like he always did. Sometimes I think he likes me more than I like him. I'd walked that same loop hundreds of times before. But as I started heading back toward the house, something caught my eye. I glanced up at the second-story window, the bedroom window, the one Maria and I used to share. For a split second, I thought I saw something move. I stopped dead in my tracks and stared up at it. There was no reason anyone should be in that room. I hadn't stepped foot in there in years. I couldn't bring myself to. My blood started to boil at the thought of some stranger breaking into my home. I rushed inside, heart pounding, and ran upstairs. The room was empty, exactly the way I'd left it. No signs of forced entry, nothing out of place. I searched everywhere imaginable and found nothing. I was shaken, but more angry than scared. I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there. The next night, I woke up to Bosley growling. He's a good dog. He never growls unless there's a reason. I sat up in bed and listened. That's when I heard it, creaking, coming from upstairs. My mind immediately went to footsteps, and directly above my bedroom was Maria's room. I considered grabbing my hunting rifle, but decided not to escalate things yet. If it came down to it, I was confident I could handle whatever was up there. I grabbed my flashlight and checked. Nothing. The room was untouched. That's when my anger started turning into anxiety. Something didn't feel right in that house anymore. The following night, I came downstairs and found the kitchen lights on. I knew I'd turned them off. I never leave lights on. There was no doubt now. Someone was inside my home. I panicked and called the police. They searched the entire house from top to bottom and found nothing. They were polite, but I could tell they didn't believe me. The next night was the worst. I couldn't sleep, so I went upstairs and checked the bedroom again. I don't know why. Maybe I thought it would settle my mind. When I opened the door, I froze. Clothes were scattered all over the floor, Maria's clothes. I had packed them away after she died. Now they were everywhere. That doesn't just happen randomly. And then I saw her. A woman stood in the doorway, just staring at me. I couldn't see her face clearly, but I knew one thing immediately. She wasn't Maria. She was too short. I don't know who she was, but she didn't belong in my house. I'd never been so afraid in my life. Without thinking, I ran at her. She turned and bolted down the stairs and out the front door. By the time I made it outside, she was gone. No footprints, no sound, nothing. I didn't sleep that night. For months afterward, I barely slept at all. Every sound set me off. I slept with my rifle beside my bed, terrified I'd have to use it. One night, I was sitting in the living room when I noticed a figure standing in the yard. She was staring straight at me through the window. It was her again. My heart nearly stopped. I grabbed my rifle and ran outside, Bosley close behind. She stood there, just a silhouette in the moonlight, watching me. I fired a few warning shots into the air. That finally made her turn and disappear into the darkness. I haven't seen her since, but I know it's only a matter of time. Living in constant fear like this isn't sustainable. Thank God for Bosley. I don't know what I'd do without him. If anything else happens, I'll update. I work for a catering service, which means I'm on the road constantly, usually late at night. The hours are brutal. One night around 2 a.m., I was driving home exhausted and wired on caffeine. I hadn't eaten in hours, so I stopped at the McDonald's just off the highway. There were a few cars in the drive-thru, which surprised me. Then I noticed something strange. An old beat-up Volkswagen with tinted windows was parked in the far corner of the lot. The lobby was closed. Employees parked on the opposite side. That car didn't make sense. I brushed it off. After getting my food, I didn't feel like going home yet. So I drove to a nearby nature preserve, a place my friends and I used to hang out in high school. When I pulled into the gravel lot, I saw headlights behind me. It was the same Volkswagen. I was certain of it. My stomach dropped. I parked a distance away and watched. The car didn't move, no music, no doors opening, just silence. I FaceTimed my friend Sebastian and asked him to come hang out. When he arrived, I finally relaxed. We walked up the path toward the lookout. Before the lot disappeared from view, all 4 doors of the Volkswagen opened at once. 4 men stepped out. They didn't speak. They just stood there, watching. Later, 3 of them approached us at the overlook. They acted friendly, offered to smoke with us, but when I mentioned seeing them at McDonald's, their expressions changed instantly. That's when I realized something. There were 4 men in that car, only 3 were standing in front of us. As we left, Sebastian pointed into the trees. The 4th man stood half hidden in the darkness, holding something. The moment he realized we saw him, he started moving. We ran. All 4 of them chased us. We barely made it back to our cars. The next day, we learned the truth. That man used to work at that McDonald's. He had been stalking his ex-girlfriend, camping in the parking lot, waiting. The police were already looking for him. I still haven't been back. When I was younger, my friends and I used to explore abandoned buildings. There was one place we went to often, an abandoned church in Narberth, Pennsylvania. The address was 198 Elmwood Avenue. The doors were boarded shut. The first floor was dirt, and a staircase led down into the basement. That's where we always went. One night, 6 of us were down there drinking and laughing. Then a door slammed, violently. No one was near it. Most of my friends ran. Only 3 of us stayed behind. We opened the door. Inside was a dresser, a cracked mirror, and red stains smeared across the glass. They weren't dry. They were sticky, like they hadn't been there long. Then we heard another noise from the room behind us. We ran. As we climbed back over the fence, I looked back. In the window, there was a silhouette watching us. Years later, the church was demolished. I never found any information about it, but I know what we saw was real, because we all saw it. This is my first story. A while ago, I worked for a company dedicated to concrete pumping. My job was to drive a truck, delivering supplies and heavy equipment to different construction sites. I spent hundreds of miles on the road every single day. Sometimes I had to visit several cities in one shift. Because of that, my work days were brutal. I usually started driving at 7 in the morning. Most nights I didn't stop until 9 or even 10 p.m. On top of that, I often had to unload the truck myself. The materials were extremely heavy, and by the end of the day, my body felt destroyed. One night, I was driving back from the city of San Antonio to Viña del Mar, where our operations center was located. In theory, the drive should have taken a couple of hours, but traffic made everything worse. After about 40 minutes on the road, I felt a strong urge to use the bathroom. I pulled over in a very dark, isolated area. It felt abandoned. Miles back, I had stopped seeing houses along the highway. I relieved myself, did a quick check on the truck, and got ready to continue driving. That's when I opened the door. Someone was sitting in the passenger seat. My mind went completely blank. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. And I had no idea who that person was or what he wanted. I always traveled alone, and this time was no exception. Just seconds earlier, I had been on the other side of the cab, and I clearly remembered that seat being empty. While I was checking the tires, I hadn't seen anyone nearby. I didn't hear the door open. Nothing. The cab was almost as tall as me from the outside, so all I could see was his head and part of his torso. He was a man. I couldn't tell his exact age, but he looked much older than me. "Excuse me, sir," I said. "I'm not authorized to carry passengers in this truck." I thought he would get out. He didn't move. "It's company policy," I added. "Honestly, if it were up to me, I'd help you, but I could lose my job if I take you." No response. He didn't even turn his head toward me. I stood there next to the truck, not knowing what to do. 30 minutes passed. I'm not exaggerating. He stayed completely still, didn't speak. I never heard his voice. Eventually, I climbed into the cab and sat in the driver's seat. I was already planning how to confront him, hoping he wouldn't turn violent. When I turned on the interior light, I finally saw him clearly. He was extremely tall, around 6.5 feet, maybe more. He was bald. His skin was pale, almost gray. It was winter, and the temperature had dropped significantly. The cold cut straight through your bones, but he didn't seem to notice. He was barely wearing any clothes, and he was barefoot. What truly terrified me was how thin he was, not normal skinny. He looked wasted, as if his bones were barely covered by skin. His face was sunken, dark, deep circles under his eyes. His elbows and knees had strange bulges, swollen in a way that didn't look natural. I spoke to him one last time. I asked if he was lost, if he needed me to call a family member or a friend. I even asked if he had taken something that put him in that state. No answer. I stared at him. That's when I realized something was very wrong. His chest wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. 15 more minutes passed and my nerves were completely shot. I didn't know how to make him leave and I was already late. So I made a decision. I turned on the engine and I started driving. To be honest, I was terrified. I expected the worst. I thought that if he wanted to attack me, he would have done it already. As the truck began to move, I saw him turn his head slowly toward me. Then he looked out the window. I kept my eyes on the road. It felt like he didn't want to look at me anymore. Like all he wanted was for me to take him somewhere. I had no idea where. After a few minutes, I noticed something strange. He started shaking. He looked nervous, like he was waiting for something to happen. About 15 minutes later, he was gone. Just gone. Vanished. I finally allowed myself to breathe, but that relief didn't last long. A few days later, I had to drive that same route again. This time, during the day, I stopped at the exact spot where he had appeared. I got out of the truck, and while moving through the grass, I found a metal cross buried in the ground. Families usually place crosses on the roadside to honor people who died there. That's when I understood. That man just wanted to reach his destination, and because of a cruel twist of fate, he never would.